All right, jumping into the vol side. Realized vol has been pretty stable in both assets. BTC still kicking around 30 vol realized, Ethereum more like 60. That's a very sort of consistent 30 volt premium unrealized that Ethereum has been holding for a long time now. Front end vols were down a couple of points on BTC, whereas ETH was up by about 2 vols on that explosion higher. Carry slightly positive, as you can see, on both assets, but we're talking a few vols, not really that much to harvest on the short gamma side. OHLC charts are showing that generally Bitcoin has been respecting the ranges. Here it had that break higher, but kind of ended back inside the range. But Ethereum keeps on pushing through ranges on the upside, the implied range, and making those new highs. Gamma selling continues to be probably more comfortable in BTC from those OHLC charts, as you can see, generally staying within implied ranges. So even though vols are much lower in BTC, like as a gamma seller, you probably feel more comfortable being short BTC rather than something like ETH that's going through this ridiculous re-rating that we're seeing. You can see the term structures here. We do have a kind of contango shape still in Bitcoin, whereas much flatter curve in Ethereum. As you can see, they're the back end of the curve kind of back in June next year was unchanged, but most front end of the curve was down a couple of points in Bitcoin there, as you can see, down to around like low 30s. Ethereum was more of a parallel shift higher by about 2 to 2.5 vol points across the entire curve, as you can see there. Here's the time series, kind of showing you how things played out throughout the week. You can see here BTC skew got to -4, flipped back briefly to calls, but now we're sitting at around -2 in the front end, so still slight put premium there. Ethereum, on the other hand, was in put premium, flipped into calls, and has pretty much stayed there, as you can see, as it has stayed a lot more bullish. Here on the vol side, we did get a bit of an inversion front end there, going up into the low 70s, but it has normalized back to around mid 60s in the vol, whereas the steepness of the curve kind of holding there in Bitcoin. Looking at skew term structures, this shift higher. So on the week, BTC has shifted higher across the curve, but we do still have that kind of contango shape, which shows a put premium in the front, moving to a call premium in the back. But the call premium in the back is much lower than we've historically seen Bitcoin call premium. Only about 1.5 vols now, really saying that the explosive bull story in Bitcoin is kind of, not really there, where the leadership's going to come in other places. That's kind of what the skew curve is telling me. Looking over at the ETH curve, the whole curve's in call premium. It did flip from puts to calls in the front there after the correction kind of ended, and we resumed our rally. And long end, you can see here that long end call premium going close to 4 vols. And the peak there coming in at around December. So people still thinking year-end upside is very much alive for Ethereum. That's where they're pricing the extra call skew. And basically that contrast between skew in Ethereum and skew in Bitcoin is clearly saying that the options market is bulled up on Ethereum right now after the moves that we've seen, and thinking that continuation of this rally is the most likely scenario. Relative value wise, you can see here 20% rally since that kind of correction kind of stopped last week. In the last 10 days, we're up about 20% in the ETH Bitcoin spread. There is this long-term downtrend that's been in place for ages. That's coming in at 0.039, so it's not far away from where we are now. Vol spreads have bounced around 35 in the front, as you can see, being justified by realized. Back end vol spread even shifting higher as well. So that deck vol spread going from like low 20s to like 25 now. That's why I cut my position there. I had that Vegas spread on thinking we may be able, may have reached a bit of a top in 20 vols in that back end. But the way this thing's moving and the way this thing if this thing really wants to re-rate Ethereum to like 10K by year end, then God knows what the vol's going to do. So I don't want to be stuck on that trade and being stubborn. I'm happy to admit I was wrong. I wasn't expecting such an explosive move on Ethereum. It happened. I managed to get out relatively unscathed with a fairly small loss on that Vegas spread. So I'll take that and move on, right? In terms of relative skew, you know, no real change from what I've already said. You can see here that blue line very much showing us across the entire curve well above zero, saying that call skew is more in demand on Ethereum than it is on Bitcoin, which makes sense, right? I mean, it's kind of being backed up by the whole story here. So watch this space. It looks like the options market thinks this has got legs. Obviously, we're overbought. We could easily have a pullback in the near term, but options market's kind of looking forward, you know, into towards the end of the year and saying, yeah, this ETH move is real. You probably don't want to fade it too aggressively, basically, right? That's kind of the conclusion that I would say I'm seeing from the options market this week. All right, that's it for this week's one. I'll catch you guys same place, same time next week. Cheers.
Hi everyone. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.